Hey, it's Brett. Thanks for stopping by my channel. And if you're returning, thank you for coming back. So today I have 15 books to talk about that are coming out in July to add to your TBR. There are so many books, so this is just a very small cross section. I will add most of these I've not even read yet, but these are the books that stand out to me and look particularly interesting. So let's not waste a second and get into it. Okay, so before we get started, what I always like to do is talk about what I'm currently reading this week, and that at the moment is two things. One is The Road to the Country by Chigozie Obioma. I'm about 100 pages into this story about a young man who, while searching for his brother, gets caught up and becomes part of the Biafran army, and what happens. It's really, really, really good. This is getting tons of incredible press, and I think everything that people are talking about, that it's, very much could be a contender for as we get into book season. I think this is one you're going to see. So excited to see where it goes. Have never read him before, but that's the first. And the second is How to Write an Autobiographical Novel by Alexander Chee. This is the second book in 6 weeks of Cheese that I've read. And I'm reading this over on Instagram with the same group I read his first book that we read, which was Edinburgh. He's just incredible. And I'm only 2 essays in, so not far at all, but I'm loving it. Okay. All right. So that's that. Okay. So 15 books that I'm going to share with you. Again, all of these, I would think almost all of them, A, I haven't read, but B, I've kind of broken them up into loose groupings based on categories. This first one that we're going to talk about is more commercial fiction that verges into lit. And then I have a few lit fiction titles after that. The first is something I don't even have a copy of yet, but I think it's really going to be a big book, and one that I am particularly excited to read, which is Long Island Compromise by Taffy Brodesser-Akner. This is, of course, the follow-up to Fleischman's in Trouble, which I absolutely loved. This is about a wealthy family that's kind of dealing with the fallout after the patriarch from the family had been kidnapped 40 years previous, but how it kind of plays out within the family. So really looking forward to this. This comes out July 9th. All right, next up, Ethan Joella's The Same Bright Stars. This comes out July 2nd, and thank you to Scribner for this copy. It says, from the author of A Little Hope, an uplifting and emotionally resonant novel set in Delaware beach town about a local restaurant owner at a turning point. Full disclosure, I didn't love A Little Hope. It wasn't completely my cup of tea. That said, I know so many people loved it, and Ethan Joella seems like an absolute delight. So I'm curious about this, and certainly for people who are fans of his previous books, you're going to want to get this one. The Great Hemisphere by Mateo Askaripour. I loved Black Buck. I thought it was an incredible debut. So smart. This, he's really kind of going in a completely different direction. It says, from the award-winning and best-selling author of Black Buck, a speculative novel about a young woman invisible by birth and relegated to second-class citizenship, who sets off on a mission to find her older brother, whom she had presumed dead, but who is now the primary suspect in a high-profile political murder. So, again, I expect at the very least this is going to get a lot of splashy coverage when it comes out, but I know no one who has read this, so I can't really speak to it at all, except to say I'm particularly interested in this. So, The Wedding People by Allison Espach. Okay, so last year, maybe it was this year, it's all running together. Anyway, Jenny Jackson, the editor extraordinaire, had come on to the Gaze Reading podcast, and we were asking her of books that are coming out this year, what are ones that she's really interested in. And she had brought up The Wedding People, and she said, I had nothing to do with this. I just read it. We didn't get it, but it's so good. So that kind of made me pulse up, because I'm so interested in anything Jenny Jackson says, and so much of what she has her finger on becomes big hits. So it just is a propulsive and uncommonly wise novel about one unexpected wedding guest and the surprising people who help her start anew. The crux of this is it's about a woman who shows up to a wedding that she's not supposed to be at, but she is ready to commit suicide, and what happens. It's not, according to Jenny, a depressing novel or anything like that. It's supposed to be really, really funny because it's the clash of this woman who shows up and the bride. So I'm really interested in this one. This comes out also July 30th, so mark it down. This is one of the books I have read that got pushed back from June, which is The God of the Woods. Again, I'm not going to rehash it because I've already talked about it. A great, really smart literary mystery. For those of you who like that, it's fantastic. I think you're going to see a lot of people reading this summer. So, and thank you to Riverhead Books for this. But again, July 3rd. And moving a little more into the lit fic arena, the first one is The Coin by Yasmin Zaher. This is a bold and unabashed novel about a young Palestinian woman's unraveling as she teaches at a New York City middle school, gets caught up in a scheme reselling Birkin bags, and strives to gain control over her body and mind. Thank you to Catapult for this. This comes out July 9th. I've already seen a lot of people reading this book and said it's simply fantastic. So excited for this and I love this cover. Another cover that I think is so crazy, creepy, great is Banal Nightmare by Halle Butler. This comes out July 16th, and thank you for Random House for this. This is a ferocious novel by one of the boldest voices in American fiction. Margaret has just returned to her native land in the Midwestern town of X to mingle with the friends of her youth, to get back in touch with her roots, and to recover from a stressful decade of living in the city of a small apartment with a man she now believes to be a megalomaniac or perhaps a covert narcissist. Banal Nightmare is filled with complicated characters who will dazzle you in their rendering just as often as it will infuriate you with their decisions. Halle Butler singularly captures the volatile, angry, aggrieved, surreal, and entirely disoriented atmosphere of the modern era. This again comes out July 16th. And the last that I'm classifying under my lit fic is Liars by Masnguso. This comes out July 23rd. And again, thank you to Random House. It says, when Jane, a writer, meets a multimedia artist named John, she feels immediate relief. They have the same ambition to focus on their creative work and share the same idea of happiness. But once they have children, Jane finds herself stymied by the responsibilities of motherhood and John's own work, which leads the family to hopscotch across the country. This novel traces the decline of their marriage and Jane's emergence from this crucible of domestic pressure. I just saw this this past weekend, as one of the New York Times books to watch for this summer. So this sounds really good. Okay, now I'm moving into 3 books, 2 by returning authors. One is a debut that are more into the kind of, I don't want to say fantasy, but we'll say bending the reality strain a little bit. The first one is called Briefly Very Beautiful by Dineen. I love this cover, but it's a spellbinding dystopian novel about the lengths we go to for the love of our children. Against a wild backdrop of the world imploding, Briefly Very Beautiful is a magnetic novel about love and resilience, combining harsh prose with epic and precise world building to create a compelling portrait of what it is to parent through the apocalypse. This is out July 2nd. Hopefully this is not some kind of predictive novel. But anyway, looks really good. And thank you to Overlook and Abrams Publishing for that. Meg Schaefer's The Lost Story. Meg Schaefer wrote The Wishing Game, which I didn't actually read. Thank you to Ballantine Books for this. This comes out July 16th. This is described as it's inspired by C.S. Lewis's The Chronicles of Narnia. This wild and wondrous novel is a fairy tale for grown-ups who still knock on the back of wardrobes just in case. Which honestly, that would be a little bit me. As boys, best friends Jeremy Cox and Rafe Howell went missing in a vast West Virginia state forest, only to mysteriously reappear 6 months later with no explanation for where they'd gone or how they'd survived. The Lost Story. So, I don't know. Sounds pretty good. Then, coming July 24th from William Morrow, Peng Shepherd's All This and More. This I did read. Okay, this is going to be a great book for book clubs, and I'll tell you why. She wrote this during the pandemic, and it is an adult choose your own adventure. I don't know about you, but as a kid, I loved those books. I couldn't wait to get the next one. My church used to have them in their church library, and I would go to church on Sunday. I'd go to check the next one out. I love them so much. Well, that's going to satiate all your childhood vibes. This is about a woman who gets chosen for a game show called All This and More, where you get to go back to a point in your life and choose the alternative decision. A little bit of sliding doors. So when you are reading the actual book, I'm trying to find a place, bear with me. You'll get to the end of sections and you'll see at the end, if you want to do X, turn to this page. If you want to do Y, keep going. The book can be read straight through. I wanted to have the experience of choosing my adventure. So if you're a fan of reality TV, if you're a fan of Choose Your Own Adventures, this is definitely going to be for you. Spoiler alert, but Peng Shepherd will be on the Gaze Reading podcast, so look for that. And we have a lot of interesting conversations about this and about the ideas of choice. But I do think this is going to be the kind of book that would thrive really well in a book club because everybody will be reading different things and want to talk about their decisions and what they thought. So again, this comes out July 24th, so look for it. Again, I've talked about this before, but I'm only bringing it up again because it's July and it's coming out and I'm still reading it and it's really big, but I have to tell you, it's really engrossing. Just to give you a little thing, the big tabs are where I haven't been yet. The little tabs are what I've already read and marked passages for. I think this is so ingenious, taking the legend, the Arthurian legend, and not turning it on its head, but kind of what happens after Ever After and how that all plays out. It's really smart. It has a very contemporary spin on things without feeling contemporary at all. And I don't want to really say any more because I don't want to give spoilers. But this comes out July 16th. This could be one of your big books for the summer. Moving on again to, I kind of jumped myself because I really have moved now into horror and sci-fi and fantasy, of which I have two. The first is John Fram's No Road Home. This is his sophomore novel. And the tagline says, "No one is prepared for the lengths a father will go to protect his young son." So listen, we have a little bit of a theme here. Earlier, we've had a mother who's going to protect her child during the apocalypse. This says, for years, single father Toby Tucker has done his best to keep his sensitive young son, Luca, safe from the bigotry of the world. But when Toby marries Alyssa Wright, the granddaughter of a famed televangelist known for his grandiose Old Testament preaching, he can't imagine the world of religion, wealth, and hate that he and Lucas are about to enter. A mesmerizing mashup of murder mystery and modern Gothic horror, No Road Home proves that there are some familiar bonds that redeem, but are better off cut. So, okay, I'm really excited for this total Gothic summer horror book. Sign me up. So, again, this comes out also July 23rd, and thank you to Atria Books for this copy and to John Fram. Check it out. Another monster coming out. Navola. We're going to try this last name. We're going to see if I'm going to try to get it. By Paolo Bacigalupi. By Paolo Bacigalupi. That's what I'm going with. Bacigalupi. First of all, you know this cover when it comes out, this is going to be raised, right? I mean, it has to be. I mean, if you're getting George R. Martin vibes, that's good, because I think that's what Knopf wants you to get from this. This comes out July 9th. I absolutely am going to be reading this thing, and maybe it's after I finish. I think after I finish the Broadsword. I mean, and this just might be my summer of fantasy. This is already being touted as, you know, as I said about the cover, as like your next Game of Thrones read. Bearing in mind, I'm going to butcher these Italian names. Here we go. In Navola, a bustling city-state dominated by a handful of influential families, business is power, and power is everything. For generations, the de Regulai family, merchant bankers with a vast empire, has nurtured tendrils that stretch to the furthest reaches of the known world. And though they claim not to be political, their staggering wealth has brought cities and toppled kingdoms. Soon, Daviko de Regulai will be expected to take the reins of power from his father and demonstrate his mastery of the games of Navolese diplomacy, knowing who to trust and who to doubt and how to read what lies hidden behind a smile. But in Navola's strange and ancient undercurrents lurk behind the guilt and grandeur, like the fossilized dragon eye in the family's possession, a potent symbol of their raw power and a talisman that seems to be summoning Daviko to act. As tensions rise and events unfold, Daviko will be tested to his limits. His fate depends on the Eldritch Dragon relic and on what lies buried in the heart of his adopted sister, Celia de Balcosi, whose own family was destroyed by Navola's twisted politics. With echoes of Renaissance Italy, The Godfather, and Game of Thrones, Navola is a stunning feat of world building and a mesmerizing depiction of drive and will. Do you know what I was looking at? I was just looking to see if it said, you know, book 1 in the Navola series or whatever, but no. So, again, July 9th, thank you to Knopf for this. And last, number 15, this is your nonfiction bonus. I was sent this book last week knowing nothing about this man, and it's a biography. And I immediately got completely caught up in it and wanted to start it immediately because of his relationship with Stephen Sondheim. So, all right. The book is called Seen Through, a chronicle of sex, drugs, and opera by Ricky Ian Gordon. Ricky Ian Gordon is an opera composer. It says, in Seen Through, Gordon writes with humor, insight, and incredible candor about his life and work, a tumultuous youth on Long Island, his artistic collaborations and obsessions, the creation of his compositions, including The Grapes of Wrath, 27, Orpheus and Eurydice, Intimate Apparel, Ellen West, and more. His addictions and the abuses he endured, and the loss of his partner to AIDS, and the devastation of the HIV/AIDS epidemic. As Gordon writes of that period, we were, thousands of us, Lazarus. We had to rise from the ashes. We didn't have to rebuild our lives. We had to build new ones. Gordon has succeeded in building a remarkable life, as well as a body of work that bears witness to all who survived in the process, one that will endure as a pivotal chapter in the American Songbook. So I think this sounds so damn good. And I also love a book that, again, someone I had no idea about, someone who has an entire body of work that can be explored, and in this context, meaning the musical work, which I'm absolutely going to do. But this seems like, for me, the biography of the summer that I can't wait to get into as I prime up for the book of the fall biography, which for me is going to be two things. The Elvis one by Riley Keough and Priscilla Presley, and Ina Garten. I mean, all right, guys, so that's it. Let me know if there's anything here you're interested in. Let me know what you're reading. And just a reminder that I'll see you all twice next week, once at the beginning of the week with Christopher Rice to celebrate the launch of his new book, Sapphire Dawn. And then at the end of next week, I will have my wrap up for June. So hope to see you then, and have a great week.